All right, good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to Unsolicited, the opinions and advice from a social media marketing agency owner, mother, non custodial parent, stepmother, wife, friend that no one really asked for. Um, but today, what we're going to be talking about is a hot new topic that's been happening in the tech world and the creative space, which is ChatGPT. And if you're unfamiliar with what ChatGPT is, it is an AI software program that has been built by and developed by a company called OpenAI, and it's become quite a bit of getting quite a bit of attention, um, especially in the digital space and in the marketing industry specifically. Obviously, I have more connections in that realm. And the conversation has been around, will this replace Google? Will this create a new world where search engines are obsolete? Is it going to replace people's jobs? What are some concerns about data privacy? What are some things that we should be looking out for as not only just digital creators and content creators, but as consumers and users of the internet? And so it's been quite interesting. AI and bots are not new. I think that's something that people need to understand. Is that this technology it's something where it's been around for a while. I've been in social media professionally for 11 years, and I've had my business for the past 9. And so it's definitely something that, as a business owner, I've looked at and gone, okay, how can I be faster, more efficient? How can I, provide better service and better quality, a good experience for my clients? How can I make my day to day better and more efficient? And it's something that I've tried out these bots or AI technologies previously, and it hasn't really been a positive or impressive, I guess I should say impressive experience. Um, and so that's something that I want to share with everyone, especially if they're new to this part of technology or new to this, or have just heard about ChatGPT. It's not new. This is just also kind of the power of really great marketing in the other part of it. But what's really interesting about this is, well, one, I did get to go ahead and play around with the platform last week. The last several days that I've tried to log on, the servers have been a little inundated with activity, as such when a tech company grows a little too fast for um, their systems that they have in place. And it it was impressive in the amount of or the level of conversational results that were being produced when asking this AI software certain questions and things like that. But kind of a sleeper move that's been hitting, my newsfeed, and what the headlines are coming in at is how Microsoft has been really an investor in OpenAI since 2019. I think back then, the last headline that I saw, they had been invested $1 billion into OpenAI and AI software. And then they also announced that they are going to be integrating ChatGPT technology into their Bing search engine coming this March 2023. So that is where I think it's going to be interesting when it comes to what's going to happen with the search engine space or the search engine industry, I guess you could say. So um, I'm just going to check on this step before I share it, um, because um, Google is pretty much the big player when it comes to search engines. And so, as of December 2022, this is a stat shared by Statistica. Statista. Statista. Then that okay. Statista. As of December 2022, Bing accounted for nearly 9% of the global search market. Meanwhile, Google currently has 84.08%, and Yahoo has 2.55%. So, I mean, it's pretty predominant, you know. I mean, we talk about, hey, I'm going to Google that, or hey, you should Google that, or um, you know, it's become a noun, and an adjective and a verb with all of that, and so that's a pretty steep thing or claim to start saying, you know, Chat GPT or any other AI technology is going to make Google search engine obsolete or a high competitor. Not overnight. After playing with the technology, definitely not overnight. That's something going to happen. And I had a couple different exercises that I put this website through. And so, if anyone who's interested and hasn't checked this out yet, while it's still free, they are dabbling in or looking at a professional or a business tier, of course, that would be paid by the word. And if you're interested, the site is chat.openai.com. You do have to sign up. The accounts are free. And you do get quite a few different notices when you go to the website. You can ask it for things like, give me 10 different blog posts for XYZ, or what are some catchy email marketing subject lines? You know, for example, those are a few things that people have done. Or there's been other reports too where people are essentially asking it to write code, JavaScript, CSS, PHP, which is really, really interesting. And again, this is the first morning that I'm on the site right now, and I got a bleep little warning, and it kind of disappeared. But even then, it's still due to high demand on our systems. Previous conversations are temporary and unavailable. That was something that was nice. It would remember or let you keep kind of a log, so you could have different kind of chats with the AI to be able to compare, or to have like a historical conversation to go back to, or something along those lines, which would be really, really beneficial. I can see as a writer or content creator of having an idea, and as a solopreneur, you know, not really having somebody else to bounce ideas off of, unless it's a fellow small business owner or fellow agency owner, is just to be able to really kind of deep dive and get more granular with certain blog topics or podcast episodes or email campaigns or anything along those lines. But it's still at that point where you still need that human touch, as far as what questions do you ask? You need to be able to proof the information. The fact check it. So one of the biggest things that I think is important to know about this is that they do put a limitation warning on here, that it states limited knowledge of world and events after 2021. So we're in 2023 right now. So we're coming up on just over the 2-year hump of information that is not part of the information database from ChatGPT, the information that they got, the writing samples that they've collected over the last couple years. And so that's where, you know, you want to you still need someone to fact check that. And the funny part about this, quote unquote, getting rid of Google, is that you're using Google to make sure that the information that you're getting is accurate still. um, Anyone who knew me back in the wild west days of Clubhouse, that was a big platform for me during the pandemic. And so one of the prompts in the exercises that I did was, I asked ChatGPT to write me a blog post about the social audio platform Clubhouse, and it came back with uh, outdated information. Obviously, that platform is different, in the aspect of it's not invite only anymore. The community is also a little bit different, but that's a side point. And that's another episode entirely. Another good example was, um, I asked it to write me landing page copy for a sales page for done for you social media services, and it did that. Very high level, very superficial kind of language. Then I asked it to write me a sales page for a group coaching program around social learning how to do social media that would upsell to a one-to-one consulting opportunity. And it did that. And the thing is that in that copy that it provided me, the bottom paragraph or the closer paragraph, the call to action, right, was exactly the same, minus switching out a few of the words because of the services that I had asked it to write about. And the thing is that it Google Google penalizes duplicated content. That's why what people do is they do different redirects for if they have two websites with same or similar content. They will go ahead and tell Google or tell the search engines which page they actually want them to be indexing in their database. And so it's one of those things where I can see someone who may be new or uneducated or unknowledgeable about the results that ChatGPT is producing, just doing a really easy copy paste, right? Copy it, paste it on the website. Wow, your entire blog post is done. It's all finished. The problem is that if if let's just say on the low end, 1,000 other people are asking the same question as you are, they're going to get the same or very similar results. Meaning that if you do a copy paste, you are essentially not going to see the results that you want in today's current internet environment with how those algorithms work. Because it's duplicated. It's the same thing, right? And so that's kind of it reminds me of back in the day, and I say that because I can't remember time frames, and I need to be better at researching that. But there was a time when people in the early days of websites, what they would do is called keyword stuffing. And so, in order to rank for certain or popular keywords on a search engine, people would just add those keywords throughout the website and throughout landing page copy as a way to show up in the ranks, even if it didn't make any sense. And one of the big updates that Google had done with their algorithm was they started looking at the quality of content. They started looking at what are users or people searching for, and what kind of results do they actually want to get from that search query. And so it really penalized people who were just shoving in keywords, even if though it wasn't conversational, it didn't make any sense. It was every other word, that kind of thing, to where it was really just subpar content that was being published and produced. So that's one thing that I can see happening, is that there being an update to technology, combating technology in that aspect where that's being looked at. And that's another thing that has been a solution, or a plausible solution for detecting AI generated works, is using another AI program to determine that. On this specific subject too, and Holly, I do see you. Hi. Yeah, the copywriting capabilities. It's I look at it as an incredible way to brainstorm. Or if you're writing all of the time and you're looking for a different way to phrase something, or you're looking for a better way to explain something, I see this as an incredible tool. And that's where I see the benefit of it. But that's also kind of where I see the limitation of it in responsible use. AI, again, it's not new. This is the one that everyone is just flooding to because of media attention and headlines, and again, really solid marketing. And people are talking about it. But this is something that professional educators um, are also being made aware of, because they're having college students have AI write for them, write their essays, write their papers, and things like that. And there was a couple things there. One, of course, having AI detect to combat AI. But as an exercise, I sat down with my high school senior at home and to show her the technology. We're a very tech friendly home in stressing responsibility and all of that kind of stuff. But aside from that, we asked ChatGPT to write a 1,200 word college essay on the topic of botany. Now, the thing is one, it didn't come back with 1,200 words, so it came back with a very high level result. Because, and then to fill out those words or to get more specific, then you would need to ask it more questions, like dig a little deeper, that kind of thing. But we copied it, plopped it into a couple different plagiarism checker sites, and Grammarly Premium actually only flagged 9% of the result that was given for plagiarism. And so that was kind of shocking. My kiddo explained that her high school actually actually accepts any papers that are 15% or less in plagiarism. And so there's that dynamic when we're talking about AI and systems and everything. And while that may seem exceptionally dark and dreary and oh my gosh, and some people listening to this might get exceptionally anxious over this idea or stressed about, well, how am I supposed to determine if a student submits an AI paper? Or even as a parent, like, how do I know that my kid isn't going to start cheating? Well, I think that this brings up another dynamic that also gets me excited in the fact that maybe education systems should be looking at more performance based strategic thinking, problem solving type of, I don't know, scoring or measurement for understanding of complex subject matter or learning these things, because I can see where the software can become a really valuable tool even in that capacity, and where this conversational aspect of it is going to change the way that we use the internet, provided it doesn't get a lot of roadblocks along the way. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But it's one of those things where, like, if you can, um, where if you can go ahead and use this as a valuable tool to help you in that creativity process or in that education and learning aspect of it, I think it's going to change things. I think it's going to change the amount of papers or essays that kids are expected to write, maybe change it into more of a presentation or more creative outlets for them to be producing some sort of comprehension. And it might get away from the whole testing and scoring rubric that we have, at least here in the United States. That's how I felt when I was in school. That's what I see with my kids going in school. We were being trained and we were being groomed to know how to test, to know how to work through these processes, not necessarily how to comprehend or understand the subject matter. And so I think in the educational realm, that's definitely going to be interesting. From the creator perspective, and Chris, I do see you, just one moment if you're still interested in speaking, um, is that from the creative outlet, the other aspect of it is this is all writing, this is all written content, and whereas another popular AI app that was floating around late last year was called Lanza, and it was creating people's profile pictures, and people would use that to create these really beautiful artworks of themselves, on social media, and it's fun and it's really impressive. I think it's a testament to what technology can do. As a creator and as someone who has a digital artist in the home, um, and this is how I make a living, not with digital art, with the copywriting. It's a little concerning and a little scary to think that you might be replaced by a machine. Um, I think that's for anybody, and we've seen it in other industries. I mean, even McDonald's fast food workers or people at Walmart with self checkout systems now, things along those lines. But at the same time, I think it's going to create an environment where competitiveness or being a top performer is going to be in more demand or more expected for those in-person roles. But I don't. With that said, I also don't see that happening overnight. The issue with Lansa and ChatGPT, or the AI that software programs that have been coming out, and somebody please feel free to correct me, or educate me or update, because this world moves so fast. So if something new happens or you find out information, please let me know. Twitter, Instagram, all of the socials. But they are taking samples, existing samples from the internet, because the only way for a software program to produce a result is with existing data that has been input into it, into a database. The issue with Lansa is that it's taking samples of artworks created by digital artists who have either have a paywall up, or they're on Patreon, or they're on whatever site they have to make a living, and the AI has taken that work as inspiration, quote unquote, to produce a new result. Same thing with so there's a concern with compensation and giving proper credit to these artists that have learned or that have created something, right? Um, and so there's an interesting question whether or not that will make traditional art come back or become more valuable than it is now. Um, then with Chat GPT, there's concerns about uh, fraud or impersonation. If you haven't looked at it, you need to go find Ryan Reynolds on LinkedIn, and he just did a commercial for Mint Mobile using Chat GPT and a few qualifiers or requirements that needed to be part of the commercial. So he gave it an input and it gave an output. And one of those was that they needed to write the commercial in the language of Ryan Reynolds, or in the voice of Ryan Reynolds. And the thing is that it came back and it did that. But the concern is that um, if it can produce a piece of content in the voice of someone else, a celebrity, a well-known reporter, an author, what does that mean for identity? What does that like? That there's a solid question there, and I think that there's been some updates as far as that goes to um, the capabilities and the responsibility aspects of these AI programs. Because the other one is um, even Lansa, they would take your profile picture and then create a new one for you based upon your face. So now you're giving a software program access to biometric data. I mean, people are using their face for unlocking features on their smartphones, or even unlocking um, payment methods in apps and things like that. So there's still some questions, and to see how far this can potentially go. I did do some research, and as far as copyright protection, and the result that I found was that the United States Copyright Office does not allow hybrid works, meaning AI and human works, be to file for a copyright on a piece of artwork or a piece of um, creative material that's been generated with the assistance of AI. So that comes into a question of who owns this content, right? Who owns the end product? Is it the AI software? Is it the actual person that plugged things in? Is it, in my case, would it be my clients? Because I work as an independent contractor. All of my clients own their IP. So at the end of the day, it's theirs. They get to do what they want with it, right? And so it's raising a lot of questions on how this could potentially work, um, and where this goes in the future. And also because the internet has no borders, but countries do. So what's going to happen, in the United States versus the UK, and how are you going to be penalized if you're using this technology, but it's outlawed or banned in another country? There's already, legal things or laws in place in Canada about what AI can and can't do. And I know that one specifically because I actually had a conversation with a with an attorney who's from Canada. So that we kind of gone on a tangent there as far as that goes. But I do have a couple people here. Before I bring you up or allow you to be on stage, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. I did just want to let you know that this will be uh, distributed among other platforms for a podcast. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. But go ahead, Holly, Chris, Stephanie, and is it Rockak? Rorschach? You're gonna have to correct me on that one. If you want to come up on stage and share your thoughts, I'd love to hear it. And Chris, mic is yours.
Good morning, Ashley. I have a question about AI.
Well, I will do my very best to answer that. What's your question, Chris?
As a voiceover actor, the voiceover community is very concerned about AI, of course. And I was wondering, I've heard questions being asked in the community. Can you copyright your voice in any way to protect yourself from AI? Thank
Ooh, that's a really good question. And yeah, Chris, I was like, I've heard your voice before. That doesn't sound like you. Um, I'm not an attorney. I am a social media professional, so I'll say that. But to speculate with that, and I'd love to hear if anybody actually does have an answer for that, to please reach out on social media or even and let us know, or here on Fireside if you're listening to it, a comment or anything like that. I would almost want to say yes to that because when you think about it, there are like, and Chris, you would obviously know way more about this because I know very little about voice acting, um, and how that industry works outside of seeing Pixar behind the scenes, right, for for all the movies and stuff. But it's one of those where people can actually copyright their body parts. And this is actually a tactic that I had learned about a few years ago, where you can copyright your body or a specific body part or whatever you want to identify with it, because if somebody posts an image of you that did not have that written consent, it's exceptionally hard to get a company or an organization to pull it down because it's a very long legal process and all of this stuff to prove that. But if you have a copyright on even your arm or your feet or your face or boobs, your butt, anything like that, now it's a copyright violation because they use the content without your permission. So I would imagine that it would be the same for your voice. It's just a matter of because I feel like you can copyright anything as long as it is you and there's no violations, or you can trademark that. But it's one of those things where it's then, okay, how do you prove that that was your voice and they didn't go in and use, audio editing software to change something? You know what I mean? I know that doesn't really answer your question because I'm not an attorney, so I can't tell you, but I
you. No,
want
that's
to say
okay.
yes.
That's okay. I've known you've done a lot of research, and I was just wondering if you come across something. The most famous thing that recently happened was Bev Standing, voiceover actor out of Canada, found out that TikTok was using her voice. Um, And so she sued them quite successfully. I guess they settled. But I was wondering if that has progressed into the legal realm yet. Um, and also, is AI good for us? I mean, we're all looking at it as it's going to replace us or it's going to be a bad thing with testing. And can you just give me like a couple of points where AI is going to be very good for us? And I'll go back down to the audience and enjoy the complimentary free shrimp cocktail. Thank you so much.
Of course, Chris. I think with I honestly think with all technology, when used responsibly, that yes, there's a clear advantage to being able to use it. And I think that AI is going to help people as far as working faster or coming up with those ideas. But again, it comes down to those of us who, and I say those of us as in the humans that, push the boundaries a little bit more than what we necessarily should, right? Because there are no boundaries right now, and that's kind of the wild west of technology in general, even social media, when it comes to what can and can't be done, because our legal system here in the US seems to move very slowly. And it's one of those too where if there isn't a rule yet, then you don't get, there's it's kind of like with parenting, if there isn't a rule, do you have that kid that's going to push it, and then until, mom or dad finally says, no, that's ridiculous, you shouldn't be doing that, and then it becomes, one of the house rules, right? Or do you have that kid that is thinking, that seems a little sketchy, and I could probably like really really advance or really get ahead, but I'm going to take the safer route and not risk it, not chance it. And so that there comes a point of that too. And I like that you brought up the TikTok thing, because there's obviously there's a lot of scrutiny and things like that over the platform coming up, as more and more state governments are banning the use of the app on government owned devices and things like that. But there's also been, and I'm trying to find it right now, where there was an article that I had seen by Nat Navarra on Twitter, and I'm part of his WhatsApp group. And he shared something about TikTok and the fact that even their creator agreement is starting to change. And it's to the point where I want to get this right. Because I did see something really quick where it was essentially they're updating the creator fund, to the point to where part of that is that TikTok is able to use that content however they would like. And it wouldn't surprise me if that was a change in their terms and conditions, to support or to prevent the example that you just shared from happening again. So I'm just trying to find that dang article, because I don't want to be a spreader of fake news either. Yeah, so TikTok, I think I found it. Nope, that was the feature launch. Oh, I'm gonna have to look at that, because I did see that pop up and just didn't have time to read fully into it. But that's something not just with TikTok. I think that any content creators need to look over the terms of service or the terms and conditions of any platform that you're on. And I think that's one of the things where that really came to light last year, when a bunch of social media platforms banned Donald Trump from their platforms. That was a real education piece, I think, for a lot of people on the ability to use or have access to these social media platforms. They are publicly traded but privately held, and they can make up those rules, and they can say, no, you're not welcome here. Not in my house, kind of is the phrase that we used. And it's one of those where, even coming here and being on Fireside, one of the biggest draws for this platform, aside from the features and it being a really great space and a fantastic tool, because I see Fireside as a way to have a podcast studio in your pocket, with your iPhone, especially for those of us who are just starting and don't necessarily have the resources to invest in, top notch equipment and stuff like that yet, because it makes it very accessible. But part of Fireside is that we, as creators coming on here, we own what we've created, and I think that is exceptionally important to know, who owns what when it goes out into the internet, um, especially if you are a YouTuber, podcaster, voiceover actor, If you're doing anything in the creator space, if you're a copywriter or if you're a ghostwriter, these are also questions that I tell my clients that they need to ask, and it's questions that I ask whenever I'm going into a collaboration with somebody, because you want to know what you own at the end of the day, and then it's a matter of determining whether or not it's important enough for you to have ownership of that. The other important thing, or the revelation that happened over the last couple of years, is understanding and really kind of getting a glimpse inside of your data privacy. So that's the other part of these not just the AI programs, as you're uploading your profile picture, your face to get a new one, or as you're asking, an AI software questions and things like that. Because that's another warning that ChatGPT has, is don't share personal or private or financial information, because it is collecting that data. It's learning from every single input that's put into this software. That's what AI does. That's what artificial intelligence does, is it's learning from all of the inputs or the input pieces that are being provided to it. And so that was kind of the realization for a lot of people, is that social media platforms are free for users because we are providing so much information and data while we're using it, that then these companies can then use to their advantage and leverage that for certain products. The most obvious one, I think, would be ads. In ChatGPT's situation, I can see this being as it helps them advance to the point to where they can help continue to improve the technology. I don't really know if they foresaw how much traffic and use they were going to get. Um, and so kudos to them on that aspect of it. But I think it's going to be definitely interesting to see where this world goes. As far as what can be generated, I think that I don't see it replacing Google or people anytime soon. Um, Another example, I had asked it to tell me about nearby um, hair salons or beauty stores, and it came back saying I can't do that. I'm It actually came back with, I do not have the capacity to browse the internet like that. I can't provide you with this, something along those lines. So in that sense, like, if search engines are discounted to that limitation of just being an online directory, that's where I think people are like, Google is going to turn into our yellow pages phone book that we got on the doorstep, that some of us, we still get on the doorstep. Our household, we save it for, fire pit kindling, starter, because you Google everything, right? Or you ask it for everything. So I think that on its own, it's very interesting, but coupling it with, a company like Microsoft could be very interesting. And then on that aspect of it, it raises more questions, because I want to know, how will this, or does it, or could it bleed into LinkedIn, which Microsoft also owns? What about Xbox, which Microsoft also owns? So there's these other products and services where, we like to have faith, or like to believe that there's still some ethical boundaries or some borderlines between products and services, but you don't know. And I can see, as a board member or investor or a CEO or someone who's trying to advance this, like, this is where AI is going to make even Windows more powerful, and really, because they're one of the most recent campaigns Microsoft has, was they're like, no, we are going after MacBook, we are going after Apple, we have better machines than they do, better computers, that kind of thing. And so it's interesting to see how that will work, because as an end user, um, I also hate the Safari web browser. Like, so I'm still using Google Chrome. So it's just a matter of being, I think, aware of what data is being collected, and that's something that I think is very important, very valuable. And, Chris, you make an excellent point too. You teach your kids once you hit send, you've lost control of your content. And that's absolutely correct. One of the things that I tell the kids and other people quite often is I'm like, hey, guess what? There's what he said, there's what she said, and then there's the screenshot. And when I remember when Snapchat launched and they were disappearing messages and I'm like, that exists in a server somewhere. It's stored somewhere. It doesn't actually disappear just because, someone that is an average end user can't have access to. It still exists somewhere. So it is, it's about having those conversations because there's with our children because um there's a lot of jokes about I just saw one this morning and posted it on my Instagram about 7-year-olds these days, iPhone, iPad, MacBook, AirPods, me when I was 7, hello. you know and it's one of those where when my kiddo was 9, I did end up getting her a smartphone. We are um, we're a blended family. We were co-parenting with bio dad and things like that, and so she got a phone, and there were conversations about responsibility, and there were conversations about a smartphone is a privilege because you can get a quote unquote dumb phone and do the same thing, which is me calling you and you calling me. But we had a lot of conversations that I think were clearly uncomfortable for her, because she's like, Mom, I don't need to hear about the mean and bad people. I just want to play this dragon game. And so, but yeah, it's important to have those conversations. Absolutely. So that is the current status for ChatGPT. Um, I just wanted to start a dialogue and have a conversation. I looked here on Fireside a couple days ago and didn't see a conversation being had yet. So I thought that this was a great opportunity to foster um, this idea and hear other concerns and feedback from other people in different industries of how this could change the way that you work or what you do at home. I think a lot of it is that there's this idea that AI takes away a lot of human control because I mean we see technology in homes, smart homes all the time. There's ways to, I mean, you can do this with Google Assistant right now and tell it, hey, when I arrive at home, I want you to open the garage door, turn on the kitchen light, and start playing music, right? Or at 6 o'clock, I want you to, or 6 o'clock at night, I want you to turn on the outside lights, the porch, the porch light for me. When I wake up in the morning and I turn off my alarm, I want you to read my calendar for the, like, there's so much happening right now, but there's still this border or this ability to have control over the technology and how it operates and how much permission we allow it to be in our lives. And I think that's one of the concerns with AI is, you know, I start thinking of, like Minority Report and iRobot and things like that. And it's kind of like, all I wanted was the hoverboard from Back to the Future. All I wanted was that with the Marty McFly ad. That's it. And we're not there yet. What? So it's definitely an interesting world, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening. I did want to invite anyone else who is interested. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm actually having another conversation with a few other marketing professionals. We actually had one yesterday, but we're going to do this on Friday, January 27th over on LinkedIn, a LinkedIn audio. We're going to be doing that at 5 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. Central. And you can look for myself on LinkedIn. Ashley Smith, I know it's kind of hard to find me there. You can also find me under the agency, which is Social Jargon. There is a typo that is in my bio here on Fireside. And as soon as I get this distributed out to wherever I can, I'm going to be able to have links and things like that. But please feel free to join in the conversation and connect on any of the social media platforms. This has been wonderful. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great day.